and the actual idea behind launching it?
Well, I believe the launching of the SEMA evaluation of the SMEs, it's, in my humble opinion, it's a step forward, encouraging the financing-related companies to go ahead and lend the SMEs, as known that the SMEs usually are faced with difficulties. One of these difficulties for sustainable growth is to obtain necessary or needed financing for them to promote and to grow their business. So I think the rating and the evaluation that SEMA is coming with, definitely it will help the banks or non-banks to go ahead with the promotion, if you will, and lending to such a section or such SMEs. But again, I believe there's still yet, as Mr. Nabil Al-Mubarak has mentioned, yet there is a long way ahead of us. Despite that evaluation system that we have, is for the SMEs themselves to get over several problems that they're faced with currently, whether being on the management side or the financial side or even the system side, and also for the lending, if you will, enterprises or companies to have the trust enough in the SMEs, since the SMEs really, we believe it's a vital, they have a vital role for the economy, since they are the most employer, if you will, of creating jobs and new jobs in the economy. So I believe cooperative efforts between the banks and between the SMEs and the upgrade their organization system, their financial systems, and also with the SEMA help, and with SAMA, of course, and different government entities that are related in the process. I think we will one day get really to what exactly we're looking for, is to have the SMEs the most contributor to the economy and to our GDP.
SMEs, how can they actually approach the taqeem system, and how can they have their establishments evaluated or scored?
Well, as the system being shown to us, it is not, in my opinion, a very complicated system. It has technical, it has financial, and also non-technical factors. Any SMEs that would like to be evaluated and to be rated simply is to approach SEMA and go through the different, if you will, evaluation process. As I mentioned, partly 50% is financial, and then the other 50% is non-financial. And once they go through the different tests and different exams, different evaluation, they will be finally attached or given a rating, between 1 and 20, and 20 means of course, the best, and so on and so forth, and that would help, as I mentioned, the lending, the lending sources, if you will, whether being banks or non-banks, depending very much on the rating, and some their own evaluation system, whether being a bank or non-bank. They will definitely, the rating will help this institution to go ahead and to ease, if you will, the difficulties that, as I mentioned, usually faced with the SMEs, as creating and raising financing for them.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you've enjoyed watching the report. We have Mr. طلعت Hafiz, the Media and Banking Awareness Committee Secretary General. Welcome to the program, Mr. Hafiz.
Well, thank you for having me on the program. Thank you.
Definitely, we're talking about SMEs and how their role can be boosted, and how much have we achieved in this regard in Saudi Arabia is a very important and interesting discussion. In your opinion, how can the prospects of SMEs be enhanced in Saudi Arabia?
I assume, I can't hear you very well, but I assume we are talking about the SMEs, if I'm not
exactly. The enhancement, how can we boost the success of SMEs in Saudi Arabia?
Well, basically, I believe the boost of the success of the SMEs we need to do a couple of issues. One, we have to establish some sort of, a system, if you will, or if you will, an organization that could really tie all the matters applicable to the SMEs. Because we believe that yet the SMEs are not giving the attention and the care it needs for that sector to really, as you mentioned, boost its performance, since it is, my understanding that that particular sector, goes back to different entities within the kingdom, more than 50 organizations or so. This is including, of course, the different Chamber of Commerce around the kingdom, plus the Ministry of Commerce, and plus the other related entities. So one, we have to establish some sort of entity that really deal exclusively with the requirements and the needs of the SME. Second, I believe there are certain issues, internal issues that the SME should be dealing with in due course, such as the organization structure from the management point of view, and also from the financial point of view, and also from the technical point of view. Because yet we believe the SMEs, they need to work very hard on restructuring themselves, by themselves, of course, by, as I mentioned, beefing up their management style, their management organization, management succession, if you will, and also the accounting system and the financial system. So that's an internal issue that we believe the SME should work on. But I believe there are, I'm not very pessimist in that regard, because I see some efforts from the government side and also from the private sector, and also including the Saudi banks. If you talk from the government side, we very clear when you talk about the Saudi bank for credit and saving. That's a very step forward, in fact, to promote the SMEs by giving soft loans to them so they can grow their business. But also, if we look to Kafala program, which is known, a program between the Saudi banks and Ministry of Finance through the SIDF, which again helps to promote the SMEs by giving loans through the Saudi banks with the guarantee, of course, provided by Kafala. Recently, we have realized and noticed Taqeem project, which is by SEMA, and that project, I believe, it's a step forward to improve the overall performance of the SMEs, and also to give confidence to the lending entities, whether being banks or non-banks, to lend in an easy format, if you will, to the SMEs. Because Taqeem, basically, which is built on financial and non-financial evaluation aspects of the SMEs, give comfort, I'm sure, and should give comfort to the lending entities, as I mentioned, being banks and non-banks, since, the Taqeem has, SEMA has worked very closely over a number of months with the Standard & Poor's to come up with such, as I mentioned, financial and non-financial evaluation of the SMEs, which I believe it will provide comfort, and it will ease one of the big problems that the SMEs faced with is the financing issue. So collectively, I feel there are big and huge efforts, whether being such efforts from the government side or from the private sector or from the Saudi banks to help the SMEs to grow and also to sustain its growth in the economy due to its importance in the Saudi economy.
Roughly, SMEs make up 92% of the businesses in Saudi Arabia and employ over 80% of the workforce, and this is according to the National U.S. Arab Chamber of Commerce's trade line. Now, this is quite interesting and encouraging, but also on the other side, we have a lifespan of 6 years of SMEs, an average, of course, lifespan of 6 years for SMEs in Saudi Arabia. How can we extend that? How can we make SMEs live longer and survive and even do better?
I do agree with you that the SMEs, they have a very important, contribution to presence in the Saudi economy. But yet we do believe that their contribution to the overall GDP is yet still very limited. When you talk about 33% of the total, 47% of the total private sector contribution to the GDP. So we believe 30% it's in the low side. In fact, if you compare notes with Japan, for example, where the SMEs contribute more than 56%, or you compare to Spain, for example, where they contribute more than 63% to the GDP, and so on and so forth with the rest of the country. And I believe to solve such dilemma or such concern is to address the problems that the SMEs are faced with, whether being, as I mentioned, clearly internal problems got to do with the SMEs themselves to beef up their management, as I mentioned, their financial system, their accounting system, their admin system, and what have you. And also another part that the government should play a role in that, which they are, but of course we need to focus more on, as I mentioned, is to create some sort of entity, whether being some organization or what have you, or to commission and to address and tackle really the problems associated with the SMEs. Because as I mentioned, now the SMEs really, they left sort of kind of fragmentation problem, and the fragmentation problem comes from they have to talk and communicate and coordinate with more than, there is a figure, maybe it's a little bit exaggerated here, but it's more than 50 unit or so or entity within the Saudi system that the SMEs need to coordinate and communicate with to run their business, which again, in my humble opinion, sort of barrier, sort of a problem to SMEs. But when you have some sort of, like SAGIA in that case, that, as everybody knows, it helps the foreign investors to deploy their FDI investment or what have you. So if we have similar to that SAGIA, I think, but totally and exclusively deal with the SMEs problem, I think we will be getting there and improve their contribution, because as I mentioned, 33% of the total private sector contribution to the GDP, I think it's too small, especially when you have mentioned that they're responsible for creating more than 82% of the workforce, and also we have more than 90% of the total companies registered in the Saudi market. So I believe they should be given more attention, especially when you look at the failure rate. I mean, we have a failure rate quite so high between, especially the small establishment and startup. 60% of that startup business doesn't really survive for the first 2 years. And that's a worry, because this is, in my opinion, it's loss of money, loss of efforts, loss of opportunities for the economy. And from that point of view, we should give more and care attention to them.
Thank you very much, Mr. طلعت Hafiz, the Secretary General of the Media Banking Awareness Committee. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, sir, and thank you for the viewers. Thank you.
Thank you.